All right, yo, good morning. How you guys doing? Excellent. All right, so I'm Dan Smith. I'm the lead minister here, and I have friends. You didn't know that. I have friends. I'm going to let them introduce themselves real quick.
I am Zach DeLong. I'm 21, and I am a warehouse supervisor.
Give it up for Zach!
Good.
So I'm Zion. I'm a third-year computer engineer at the University of Akron. I currently work as a resident assistant there at Akron, and I also do all the video stuff. So anything that you see on these two screens right there typically goes through me unless it's really, really old.
Yeah.
I'm Bria. I'm also from Akron. Sorry, I forgot the clapper. And my major is respiratory therapy. I do Campus Focus, which is like what he mentioned. It's like a Christian group. And then I also do boxing, which is fun.
Yeah. And she's always looking for a good song to worship Satan, you heard from the video.
I'm Aslan Smith. I'm a second year at the University of Akron studying early childhood education. I also go to Campus Focus.
Yeah, and I'm Dan Smith. This is my daughter, that's my son, and I'm a freshman at Kent. So let's start with Zach. Zach, tell us how you started coming to Momentum. What's your story?
So I ended up at Momentum because of Zion. He invited my middle brother, Tony, who he used to come, but he's been busy with work. And he invited him to Unleashed, which was our old youth Mo group before it was Amplify.
Yeah.
And then my mom heard about it from him and dragged me to church one morning. And I remember showing up at when we still met in Maple Leaf, and I thought it was super weird because I just left this school like 2-3 years ago, and I'm now going to a church inside the gym.
And Zach wrestled in high school, and I'll never forget there was a moment Zion was kind of like maybe a freshman in high school. Me and Zion were riding in the car one day, and Zion was talking to me about what he might do to get into fitness. And now he's a runner, and Zion's got a motor on him. He can run, man. But he's like, I don't know if I might like work out, lift weights, maybe run. I like running. He goes, but if I did lift weights, I don't think I'd so much want your physique, Dad, as like Zach DeLong's. It's like, wow, that was a low-key roast right in my own car.
I'm a Greek Adonis underneath the hoodie.
Yeah, he's chiseled like stone underneath that hoodie, and apparently my son looks up to you.
Rightfully so.
So for Zion, Bree, Aslan, tell us how you guys started, how you guys met, how you guys became friends, all that.
So I knew Haley Baker, and we grew up in the church back in Marion, Ohio together. She's also my roommate, and she's the best roommate. And so we started going to Round Lake Christian Camp, which is where she introduced me to like the entire Momentum crew. I didn't really know, I didn't really get close with them until later. I went to the winter weekend. I got close to Journey Smith and Nathan Liu, and then we went to that winter weekend, and I got close to Aslan.
Yeah.
And I know Haley Baker, who also goes to Akron, through my dad. My dad was friends with her dad. And this was in like 6th grade-ish, and we exchanged iPod emails, so we kept in touch. And eventually she got added to a group chat me, Zion, and Zach were in like freshman year maybe. And we realized Haley went to Round Lake Christian Camp, which a lot of the students here go to. But she didn't go to our camp, like Connect, that we go to. She went to like a wilderness camp through the same Round Lake. So we invited Haley, and Haley came. And Haley was friends with Bree. But Bree was also at this camp. But this is how I met Bree, okay? So we have to take swim tests when we're at Round Lake. And, like, there's a lake over here, and then there's, like, a sandy part over here. And I'm just standing, talking to Zach, talking to Zion, and I see this little 5'3", pink-haired girl running at me, and she grabs, like, a huge stick, and she starts running around me, and she's like, Sea Bear Circle! And I was like, who the heck is that? And that's how I met Bree.
Yeah. SpongeBob reference, Sea Bear Circle.
Yeah, Bree said she wanted to protect me, and I'm still here. I was protected from the sea bears, so thank
Bree
you.
saving lives,
Thank you.
man, saving lives.
But yeah, like Bree said, I didn't fully get to know her until winter weekend was actually last January of 2023. So yeah. But
then-
it was our senior year.
And then that developed by some of the first off, Round Lake Christian Camp, thank you. Like, if that's not a plug for little kids and middle schoolers and high schools to go to Round Lake, that they got to meet each other and they're still friends now. And then that developed later.
Yeah, because I ended up getting put in that group chat too, and we were at one point we were just like, "What college you going to?" And then everyone was like, "Akron," and everyone was like, "So am I." So that was convenient. So that was cool that God did that.
Yeah, and so what's cool is this group knowing each other that know each other from Akron. It didn't start at Akron. Like, the core of that started at Round Lake, where our kids go to church camp, which is so thank you, Round Lake, for what you guys do, because that's pretty awesome. So there's other people that came along eventually then.
Yep, so me, Zion, and Zach were all friends with John Michael in high school. And John Michael is also a student at the University of Akron. And so he was just kind of our friend already. And he was roommates with someone named Zach Essinger. Not him. Different
Another
Zach.
Yep.
So yeah, Zach Essinger was John Michael's roommate. And he did not like us that much. He kind of stayed away from us. If we were sitting at dinner, he'd be at a different table. He thought we were weird, pretty much. Yeah, the one in the middle, and then John Michael's on the side. But Zach Essinger eventually became one of our best friends and also my boyfriend.
Ooh. We'll talk about that.
So yeah. So John Michael, Zion, Zach Essinger, Annika, Bree, Haley, we're all the Akron Brunch. That's our name. That's what we like to.
Name.
We don't know how that happened. It just the name showed up at some point.
Annika's also our neighbor from the very first year. Me and Haley, like next door, she just introduced herself, and she's been with our group since. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And Zion, you said you didn't think the group would stay together.
Yeah, so I mean, we started a kind of a group chat, like you said, about we're all going to Akron. Let's get ready. And I thought, okay, we're gonna meet up. We're gonna get dinner the first week while we're all lonely, and then we're gonna find friends, and then we're all gonna split off and do our own thing. And then it just kind of stuck. We went to Rob's, which is the cafeteria on campus for lunches and dinners, and we just kind of stayed together as we met new people. Those relationships just kind of stayed and kind of just became the friend group, and it was really, really cool. It was really, really cool to see. But yeah.
Yeah, so we've slowly grown the friend group. I would say those are our core people, but sometimes at the cafeteria, if we see someone who looks a little lonely, maybe sitting by themselves, we invite them to sit with us, and the table slowly grows. But usually, if it's a guy, Zion will invite them, or if it's a girl, I'll invite them just to make sure it's out of pure intent, and so they're not coming over to Riz. I'm not trying to. Do you guys know what that means? Sorry.
This service might struggle with Riz.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they pull a bunch of tables together, and the group gets bigger and bigger because they've been loving people that kind of sit by themselves. So, spiritually speaking, what are some of the challenges that you guys all faced moving from high school to young adulthood? There's that transition there.
My personal biggest struggle was, to preface, my graduating class here at Momentum was pretty big. I don't know if it was the biggest, but it was definitely pretty big within the last couple of years. And I think I'm currently the only attending member of that group. Whether they moved for school or college, or some of them moved out of state. And it's really hard watching the people that I grew in my faith with, and even just alongside in school, just separating and not seeing them regularly. And they were a big reason that I wanted to come, because they were my friends. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely still very reassuring showing up every Sunday and seeing all of you guys and all the faces. And it's helping me realize how big the community really is outside of just them.
Yeah, I'm proud of you, man. That's really cool. It's tough. Yeah, it's very tough.
Yeah, and something I struggled with coming into this was transitioning was homesickness. I definitely struggled with that, and I think I realized how much I relied on my parents. And when I got dropped off at my dorm and the door shut, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm all by myself. What do I do? But yeah, like I started going to meals by myself, or picking up packages by myself and doing adult things all by myself. And I felt like very alone, I guess. And I just felt like I needed someone. But then I remember recently Katie Thomas, who is a person who comes to Momentum, she told me, Aslan, you realize you're not really alone, right? And I was like, huh? And yeah, I just have really began to realize that God has been with me the entire time. And it's not that I don't miss my family sometimes, but it's definitely been better just because I'm starting to learn all these new things on my own, but not on my own. It's actually with God. Even if it doesn't feel like he's there, he really is.
Yeah, and that's really tough because me and Shannon are awesome parents. So
I was going to say, she said
tough.
sometimes. We miss our family sometimes.
you're going to feel this physique real soon, buddy.
I'll protect him.
Okay, you're safe.
My challenge is like the time that I spent with God changed so much. So like in my senior year, I woke up at 5 a.m. and I was able to work out, and then I did a devotion with Journey Smith and Nathan Liu. They're both Amplify students here, and like we did that the entire like 2 years, and then I tried to continue those when I went to college, but I could not get up early to save my life. I was up till like 2 a.m. doing assignments, so that ended up changing a lot. So I ended up like praying when I went to classes and stuff, and just like listening to sermons more often than sitting down and reading them. And then I started a different Bible plan that I'm just like reading through the Bible. So it's just changed a lot, but for the better too.
Yeah, so again, like, how cool is that through Round Lake, she knew my youngest son, Journey, and Nathan Liu, who goes to Momentum. And I remember Journey, like, asking him what he was reading in the Bible at some point. He said, I'm on the Bible plan with Nathan Liu and Bree from Round Lake. And I was like, who's Bree? So, but she was still in high school and connecting with Momentum students because of Round Lake. So, yeah.
So one of the biggest spiritual challenges for me going into college from high school is that in high school, I really centered my faith, especially in late high school, around something called apologetics, which is basically the evidence behind for what you believe, right? Whether it be like scientific evidence, historical evidence, whatever it is. And so when I was having doubts about my faith in high school, I really dug into that and concluded it is most likely, right? It is reasonable to say that God exists and that the Christian God is the real God. And so I'm going to believe in that. But what I realized is going into college is that as I went into a small group in this college ministry, people began to quote scripture and do those kind of things. And I'm like, wow, for being so sure that, this Bible is legit, I know shockingly little about what the Bible actually says about so many things. I don't know the Bible very well. And that was really challenging to me and eye-opening to me of, man, I really need to take this seriously and lock into it and know what exactly am I believing in? What exactly do I claim to be my God, And I didn't know it that well. And so that really helped me throughout my first, second, and now third year, really locking in and studying the Bible.
Yeah, and so hopefully that gives us some more insight to any high school student that then moves into an apartment locally and starts a job or a trade or goes away to college or stays for college. Satan tends to try to find us in those transitions and attack us. And if we had something good going, usually community, or I'm reading the Bible, like I've got these rhythms with God, that's when Satan kind of slides in and attacks. And so it's good for us to keep our minds on these kids who are going into young adulthood. They get lonely, they get isolated, they feel all by themselves and sometimes get depressed. And so it's really helpful for us to kind of know that in ways to, just to be ready to support them. So from your experience, what do you think are some of the faith hacks that you've learned along the way in this stage of life?
My biggest hack is you have to have community. I think it is so unbelievably important to have people around you because those people that are around you, that's who you're going to grow with in your faith or as people. You need people that are going to surround you and give you both truth and grace. And I have a Bible verse, Ephesians 4, verse 14 to 15. We will no longer be infants, tossed back and forth by the waves and blown here and there by every wind of teaching and by the cunning and craftiness of people in their deceitful scheming. Instead, speaking the truth in love, we will grow to become in every respect the mature body of him who is the head, that is Christ.
Yeah, great combo, truth and love.
My faith hack is really similar, just finding people that put Jesus first as well. Finding that community, it helps with accountability and just people to talk to about Jesus. Making sure you seek Jesus first every single day, because the day is going to look like a mess for the most part every day. So just like seeking Jesus throughout that day.
Yeah, my faith hack has to do with like finding a spiritual spot, just a spot that you designate to reading your Bible, spending time with God. Last semester, I had this specific spot at Starbucks, and I would always read my Bible there in this like 30-minute period of time that I had. And it would be really annoying if someone took my spot, and I'd be like, but that's it's my spot. But yeah, I'd pick like a public spot, so hopefully it sparks conversation someday. But some days there's times I want to read for the full 30 minutes. Sometimes there's not, but I do it anyway. Sometimes I go overtime if I'm feeling extra awesome. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a good spiritual hack for anyone of any age. Like, here's the place where I meet with Jesus, and I do it consistently over and over every day. I think it's really helpful.
Yeah, so one of the things I learned just going into from high school to college, that transition, is that you really have to understand that the main word is just intentionality. As you transition from high school to college, a lot of the why of why you do things changes, right? Because, I go to church as a kid because my parents make me go to church. I read my Bible as a kid because I'm told to read my Bible. When I go to college, suddenly all those things are put into question, right? Why am I reading my Bible every day? Why do I go to church every Sunday? And what I found ultimately for especially reading the Bible is that I do not read my Bible because my parents tell me to. I do not read my Bible because the Bible tells me to read the Bible. I read it because when I read the Bible and I take what it says and I apply it to my life, it works, right? And so when I see that, okay, thousands of years ago, someone wrote this, whether inspired by God or not, and whoever wrote it, they had humanity figured out, because everything that they say, when I apply it, it works. And that has to call into question, okay, who actually wrote this? Was this inspired by God? Because, man, it really seems like it. And so I read the Bible because when I apply these things to my life, like, I see results. I see that it works. And the Bible tells me Jesus is the Lord. And I'm like, yeah, I believe it.
Yeah. 1 Peter 3:15 is like a cool verse that kind of deals with something else that you said is a spiritual hack for you, preparing to defend what you believe in.
Yeah, so especially in a public university, there's a lot of times where people will challenge what you believe in. People will challenge Christianity, whether it be professors, students. In fact, just as early as like last night, I was debating with someone on like a certain aspect of Christianity. And just to be ready for those kind of things, to make sure you're studying into, okay, is what I believe actually legitimate? And go into the historical evidence, go into the scientific evidence, whatever it might be, and study those things so that you're ready to back up what you believe. And so this is 1 Peter 3:15. It says, "In your hearts revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have. But do this with gentleness and respect." And especially in a college environment, we have a lot of people, I'd say like at least once a week, that holds up just signs in like the middle of the campus saying, "Everyone's going to hell. You're all going to hell." And it's like, man, this is the picture of Christianity that people have. Most people walking around that campus, they see that sign and they're like, well, I don't belong. I do blank things. I do so many things on that sign. I don't belong. And it's like, man, we're all broken. And we have to be the counterexample to those sign people. And that's a tough thing because it's so easy for that reputation to break. But yeah, that's a tough part, but it's definitely our job out in that campus.
Yeah. Some of you guys have mentioned community already. How has a small group, so the Akron Brunch, they go to small groups through the chapel in Akron, a church in Akron, and it's also Campus Focus is the ministry there. But a small group at a good church is a small group, okay? So they go to a small group there. Zach is a part of Mo Groups at Momentum. So how does that help you spiritually?
Mo groups have kept me sane, and they've kept me here for sure. They're so important for, I mentioned before, community. You get to meet so many really awesome people at Mo groups. Like I started in Unleashed, piling into Shannon's van, trying to sneak Shannon cookies before we get the group. And now we used to have Hey Ya, our young adult Mo group, and now I go to the Thursday night group, who is both were actually graciously hosted by Jeremy Speth in the back. He's the handsome fellow on the iPad right now.
The bearded one.
But they're so important. They keep you going when you really don't want to, and they'll keep you fed, which is really important, especially when you're a young adult and you don't make that much money.
And you could tell he means spiritually and physically. It's like they keep you fed.
Yeah, physically is very important.
So Hey Ya was a young adult Mo group that we had that doesn't exist anymore currently. But tell us just a little bit about Hey Ya, the former young adult Mo group.
Yeah, we used to meet every Wednesday, 6:30 to like 8 o'clock. Sometimes we'd go over and we'd hear Jack Speth, Jeremy Speth's son, yelling about the Cavs games pretty frequently. And it was really cool. It was for ages 18 to 26. We would meet, we would follow the lesson plan for Sundays, or sometimes we would go off and talk about more aimed or targeted topics for young adults. We had a series that Dan even talked at. It was pretty cool having a celebrity come and talk at our group.
Big fish, small pond.
Very
8
small
people,
pond.
you know,
Very
like,
small pond. It was really cool, and I was even I was apprenticing to maybe even lead one day with my girlfriend Allie, who's in the front row next to my mom, Melinda.
Oh. Yeah, so that's kind of a plug of, man, we're just learning how to do this as a church in the last few years, how to support young adults. We had a young adult rise up and be like, hey, I think I could lead a Mo group eventually. So they apprenticed, became a leader, led a young adult Mo group. But that's been kind of new for us. Like, how do we rally around young adults? And so we would love to start another young adult Mo group. That will take some on-ramping, but if you are a student who is graduated from high school, 18 to 25, 26, and you're interested in that, like Zach already said, one of the toughest things for me, I graduated high school and I got to work, and my friends went away to college. And so if you're someone who's here and you're a young adult, we'd love to hear from you. Hey, I would be interested in that. Like, talk to me between services, email my wife Shannon. She's the Mo group director that I make out with. And so Shannon at MomentumChurch.com. Be quiet. You can't talk when we're kissing. And so Shannon at MomentumChurch.com. And just let us know, hey, I'd be interested in a young adult group. We'd love to get another one started ASAP.
Yeah, so in terms of how small groups have affected me, I kind of play a different role right now. My first year in college, I attended a small group as normal, and they kind of switch up every year with new leaders and brand new groups of people. And so my second year, I was training for a leadership title, I guess, for a full year to be a small group leader. And this year, I am a small group leader. And so I lead a small group of, right now it's about 30 people, actually. So not as much as a small group.
That's a
but,
church. That's a church.
And yeah, it's all been about, again, that word intentionality, being intentional with the people around you and building that community. And one of the things that has shocked me the most about just the effect of Campus Focus, that college ministry, and small groups is that in a public university, I expected to go in and feel starved, like, of my faith, you know? That's what I think a lot of the idea is in a public university. But what I found is I've never felt less alone in my faith. Just going around campus and seeing all the people that do take their faith seriously and they're seeking out the Lord. And so just think about this, like in a place that is known for spiritual starvation, I mean, there's thriving right now in Akron, and that means people are seeking this out. People are interested. I mean, like, I know we had like 260 people, I think, show up to one of the services like last week.
And that's just college students.
Just
like
college.
young
It's
adults.
just Akron college students, mostly Akron, and it's just amazing. And so I don't know, take that as like inspiration, as like even the places that are known for starving are kind of thriving right now, at least from what I've seen. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I love my small group. Everyone there is really amazing. And I remember I prayed in high school so much that I would find like just Christian friends who love Jesus as much as I do. And they really do provide a lot of accountability too. Like just this morning, Zion always asks us on our way to church, how has Jesus challenged you this week? Like, so they're always asking stuff like that. And then I know if I was, acting goofy or not following the Lord, they would call me out and they would hit me with some loving correction.
Yeah, like
And
no more sea bear circles.
I
In
guess
the name
not.
of Jesus, no more.
It's great. It's also just really great for that accountability.
Yeah, this is wise too, just because, transitioning from high school into a job, into school, whatever it is, sometimes high school students are looking forward to, like, I can't wait for no accountability. But then there are others who are like, I love Jesus and I need accountability in some way. And, community, a small group is like the way that can happen. So let me ask you a strange question. Why do you come to Momentum? Like, why?
I come because you guys you're basically my second family outside of the two sitting up front in the front row. You guys, it's so awesome to walk in every Sunday and just see how welcoming everybody is. Everybody's talking in the lobby or they're in here talking, just saying hi, walking up to new people. It's really, really awesome to just see. And it started with me just being dragged here with my mom. And now I have my own car, my own license, and I just come here. I love it. It's so good.
Yeah, for me, I grew up going here, obviously. And when I left for college, I was like, I'm going to try a different church. So I did try going to the chapel, and the chapel is great. But I felt very called to bring people from Akron to Momentum. I felt there's just a lot of energy here and really nice people, and I just felt like for our age group, like I felt like this would be a really good place to bring people. For example, even our friends Annika, other Zach, and actually both of them, they were like really drawn to how Andre sings like pop kind of songs, like popular songs, and they loved it, and they just kept coming, and now they keep coming, and now they come here all the time. And I just think it's really cool to see the second timer t-shirts all around Akron. Like, we're in the cafeteria, and they're just there. And I'm like, that's really cool.
Yeah, which is cool is Zach and Zion and Aslan all went to Garfield Heights High School together. And the same thing kind of happened with student ministry there. They'd go to student ministry, invite friends. Next thing you know, you're walking through Garfield Heights High School, and there's people wearing our student ministry sweatshirts and T-shirts. And all of a sudden, you're like, hey, I'm not alone, which is cool. That's happening now at Akron. That's amazing.
Yeah, the vibe here is really awesome. Everyone here is like super loving, and as someone who did not grow up here, like this is a nice change of pace. Believe it or not all churches are super loving. The minute you, and I ended up struggling spiritually, like with wanting to get baptized. I got baptized when I was like 8, and I didn't really remember any of it, and I know that was really upsetting with it, and I struggled with it for like a year. And I knew like that I could get baptized here, and I knew everyone here would be loving and be supportive of it, and I did, and it was awesome.
September 8th, this fall, Bree got baptized, rebaptized, so it's super cool. So a verse that you hear a lot in middle school, high school ministry, 1 Timothy 4:12, don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, but set an example for all the believers in speech, in life, in love, in faith, and in purity. Now, what's interesting, though, is that's written by a guy named Paul, who was a spiritual mentor to a young man named Timothy. But when we say young man, we mean like 30 to 35 years old. So that would still apply, this verse. Don't let anyone look down on you because you're young. I mean, that guy's a boomer compared to you guys, So, you guys are young adults. So just talk to me about, like, why you think your generation and what you bring can be an example to Jesus' church, and even specifically to Momentum.
Yeah, I think young adults have a lot to bring to Momentum. I think we're still mature and have a lot of experience and knowledge, but we're also not mature, and we're also like really fun and like exciting, and like we like to have fun. And I think something really cool about us is like we have passion to serve and love God and worship God. So I don't think people should be nervous to ask us to like help out or ask us to serve somewhere, because most likely we want to. That's what we want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think young people offer such an important piece to not even just Momentum, but to Jesus in general. With that being, we're the next generation of Christians. We're the next faces that you're going to see in the chairs, out front greeting. We're the next Mo group leaders or elders even. And it's been really cool to grow up watching it and then slowly step into those shoes. Because I started just volunteering, dressing up as Marshall from Paw Patrol for the Back to School Fest, and now I was apprenticing for Mo groups, and now I'm up here, and this is not my thing, but I'm here.
That's going to be the greatest future story of an on-ramp to eldership. I started as Paw Patrol, now I'm a spiritual elder at Momentum. That's my progression. But yeah, they set an example. I'm sure many of you would say, man, I haven't got my button gear and got to a Mo group. And all these young adults are in Mo groups. I don't spend time with Jesus every day. I need a spiritual spot. And, like that kind of, I don't know anything about how to defend my faith. Like, I hope they set an example to challenge you, because we're talking to like 21-year-olds, on stage basically. So, as we continue to, as you guys continue to come to Momentum and bring friends with you, which just continues to happen at the 11 a.m., it's like at least the front row that is a bunch of young adults, often from Akron, but other places. As you bring your friends from your neighborhood, from Akron or whatever, you're like, how can we continue to help and encourage and support you guys as young adults?
I've only been coming here for about a year, and so I still don't know a lot of you. So I struggle to start random conversations with you guys. So come talk to us. I know we say weird things like Riz, and like we have the slang, but I promise we do like talking to you. So yeah.
Yeah, to add on, I think you guys have done a really good job of like inviting us and making us feel welcome. Like, there's never a time I see a young adult like not being talked to. But other things I thought of was just like a lot of our friends are involved in like Annika, John Michael, and other Zach. They're in music education and like other music majors, and they have a lot of recitals and other things like that you guys can show up to. And then there's people like Katie Thomas, who I mentioned earlier, who comes here. She invites me to get Starbucks or breakfast and talk about her days. There's also Tiara Passive, who also goes here, who's sitting right there, so everyone can look at her if you want. She asked for my dorm address once and just randomly sent me a package saying, like, you're awesome, I love you, you're doing, like, I hope you're doing well.
Oh, I live on Chamberlain Road.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I'm going to start with a bit of a story, and then I'll get to the question. But in middle school, we met in Maple Leaf, which is the elementary school in Garfield Heights, or one of them. And we met in the gym. And we had to set up and tear down church, before and after services, because, there was school happening, so we kind of we couldn't just keep stuff there. And I always remember there would be someone vacuuming just the main lobby where people walked in, after church. And Jason Liu, one of the elders at Momentum, you can see him right there, he always came up to me and he says, hey, and I'm in middle school at the time, he goes, hey, you see that person vacuuming over there? I want you to take their vacuum cleaner and I want you to just do it yourself. I was like, oh no. So, I always tried to avoid him after that because I knew he'd ask me to do it every time. And so, but he would, and now I was so annoyed with it then, but looking back, I see that, man, he was really challenging me in a way that I couldn't appreciate at the time. And so going into the question, I think an amazing way you guys could help us would be to challenge us. I think in middle school and high school ministries with Amplify, it is really easy to challenge them a lot and keep doing that. That's absolutely amazing. But I think when people step into college, it just gets a little more difficult to do that because, they're really busy, they have their own lives. But spoiler alert, I think you guys know this. You never stop being busy after this, And it shouldn't be a worthwhile excuse because whatever our priority is, we're going to make time for it. And so I want to make time for those opportunities to serve. I want to make time for this church. I want to make time for this ministry. And so challenge us. If we're straying from the path and you see that, try to correct us. Tell us what we're doing wrong. Give us some advice. And if there's any opportunities to serve that you think we'd be a good fit for, tell us. Give us that opportunity because we want to move forward in our faith. And I think challenging us, it's a fantastic way to do that.
Yeah. Well, last summer, one of the coolest things for me as personal experience is I go to the men's camping retreat, and Zion came with me this year because it's for adult, like 18 over out of high school. And on the way there, he was just like, man, I'm so pumped to be around other adult Christian men who I can just learn some stuff from. And when we left the weekend, I was like, what'd you think? It's kind of chill, low key. And he was like, I got to talk to adult Christian men about life and faith. And I was like, man, that's pretty awesome. So they want to hear from us. They want to be, encouraged and supported and challenged by us. And one thing, like I said, we're pretty new at this at Momentum. We really, really are. And I think we want to know if there's anybody out there who's like, man, maybe one day I'll play a role in encouraging young adults, supporting them in whatever way. We're trying to figure out more ways to do that. So maybe you're someone who's like, man, I'm a baller. I'll send gift cards. I'm a baller. I'll whatever. Let us know also, Shannon at MomentumChurch.com, if that's something that you're like, I think that's on my heart. We have people who serve middle schoolers regularly, high schoolers regularly. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is the beginning of something new, that we have people who rise up to be a team of people who love young adults at whatever stage of life, wherever God is calling them in whatever direction. And so that's an opportunity for us. So would you give it up for these guys? Yeah. You guys rock. Thank you so much.